Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. What's going on with Lori Vallow Daybell? She's currently in court on a conspiracy to murder charge and she's representing herself. Why? Does she think she'll win? And how does she feel about her previous convictions?
You were convicted of killing your kids. Where does that disconnect?
Convicted.
You believe wrongly convicted?
Absolutely, 100%.
Let's look into her like she's never been looked into before. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. What I do here is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words that are said, then use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing deception, seeing the truth, and seeing the motivations of a person. Now, Lori, at the time of recording, is representing herself in court, where she is charged with conspiracy to murder her ex-husband. She's given a pre-trial interview where she talks about why she's chosen to represent herself, and she's asked about her previous convictions, including those convictions for killing her own children. Now, what I'm going to look at here is repeated words and ideas. What we talk about a lot, what we keep bringing up, even especially when we're not asked about them, gives us an insight into what is important to us. And I think that is going to give us an insight as to what is important to Lori Vallow Daybell. So let's listen to some of that interview that she gave before the trial, including the very, very first question she was asked.
First and foremost, I want to ask you, why did you decide to represent yourself at this trial?
There's lots of reasons. Obviously, being pro per is not an easy job. I'm not an attorney. I do not have training to be an attorney. There's something that I figured out when I got to this jail. You know, this experience has been 5 years running. Okay. I went through a whole trial, before in my other state, and then I was brought here to Arizona to face some more serious charges. And I came here with the intention of having a speedy trial, right? I wanted to, these charges came first, right? So they're like 5 years old. So I, first talked to the attorneys. I was like, they've had 5 years, the prosecutors, to put their case together, and I really want to go to trial. Like, we need to go. So I'm in a max pod, with the max women, and there's about 8 women in my pod facing death penalty. And, I was facing the death penalty in Idaho. I was the only one in that jail because it was a very small town and a small jail. But here, these women have been waiting for their trials for 5, 6, 7, 8 years to go to trial in a jail, okay? And then during this experience, I've been in 4 different facilities during this experience, right? Because I've been shuffled all over the country, right? Came from Hawaii to Idaho to Boise, back and forth. So I've experienced 5 different facilities now. This is the 5th facility I've been in, and it is the worst.
Okay, so first answer, and I think there is so much revealing in this answer from her. The question is, first and foremost, I want to ask you, why did you decide to represent yourself at this trial? Now, you've heard what she had to say. Can you tell me why she decided to represent herself at the trial? She doesn't answer the question. And that means that everything she gives us is a diversion or something she thinks is more important to say than answering the question that was asked of her. Therefore, that's going to reveal to us lots about her thought process, lots about what is important to her, because she didn't answer the questions. She's asked, why did you decide to represent yourself at this trial? And she says, there's lots of reasons. And then does not give us any reasons at all. She says there's lots of them, but if there are lots of them in her head, she's not going to share. She's off on her own train of thought, and this is going to reveal what is important to her. So she says, obviously being pro per, it's not an easy job. I'm not an attorney. I don't have the training to be an attorney. There's something I figured out when I got to this jail. Okay. So here is her priority. And the first thing she focuses on is all the things that she's going to be really bad at. It's not an easy job. I'm not an attorney. I don't have the training to be an attorney. She's focused on what she doesn't have. She's really digging into all the reasons why this is not the right thing to do, or not a clever thing to do, or something that she has no experience of doing. She's telling us, and I think this is setting some expectations up here. She's not sitting here going, I'm going to be a great attorney. There is no one better to do this job than me because I know my case inside out. No one's going to stand up for me like I'm going to stand up for me. That's not what she does. She tells us why it's going to go badly. She tells us it's not an easy job. She tells us I'm not an attorney. She tells us I don't have the training to be an attorney. The first thing out of her head, I think this could be setting some expectations about why it might not go very well for her. Maybe she doesn't care about that. We'll come on to that as we go through the analysis. Maybe it's this was recorded just before the trial. So maybe this is really in her head of, man, this is going to go really, really badly because I'm not an attorney and it's not going to be an easy job. And then she says, there's something that I figured out when I got it to this jail, and she goes to talk about what that is, but these are her priorities. She's not going to be very good at this, or she doesn't have the training to do this, and also this thing she figured out when she got to jail, and she kind of expands on that. She says, this experience has been 5 years running, okay? Now, she does this a lot when she's talking. She checks in that little okay at the end of the sentence. This experience has been 5 years running, okay? Now, that is either her sort of controlling personality saying, okay, this is the truth. I'm saying okay at the end of it to check that you get how important this is. Okay, right, this is important. I'm commanding you that this is the deal. Okay. Or she's nervous and she is worried about how she comes across, and she wants to ensure that the interviewer understands what she's talking about. For me, I go with the first one. I think this is a bit of controlling language. She's putting in convincing things like, okay, to say, don't question any of this. This is damn obvious. That's why I'm saying okay at the end of it. Then look at how much legal concepts come up in the next part of this answer. She says, I went through a whole trial, before in my other state, and then I was brought here to Arizona to face some more serious charges. And I came here with the intention of having a speedy trial, right? I wanted to, these charges came first, so they're like 5 years old. Big old mishmash of an answer there. What can I get from inside that? She's in the system, right? All she thinks about now is jail and charges and trials, because in this whole answer she mentions trial, serious charges, a speedy trial, charges that came first. So she is in the system. This is her life now. Trials, being in prison, being in jail, charges that she's fighting and so on. This is her life. This is what is going on. We have the beginning of the concept of time here. She says this experience has been 5 years running. She wanted a speedy trial. So speedy is about time as well. 5 years is maybe a long time. Speedy is making it go all fast. These charges came first. So again, that's an order of time that she's talking. And again, they're 5 years old. So the concept of time, very, very important to Lori Vallow Daybell, as is the concept of the legal system that she is in. And she also has a right there, which is like the 5 years running. Okay. She says, I came here with the intention of having a speedy trial, right? And I think, again, this is the truth. I'm just making sure you got this, but you need to get this. It's not arguable here. So I'm putting in right to convince you that don't even come and question any of this. But you'll notice it's all legal. None of it is personal. She doesn't talk about herself, her emotions, anything that she's going through at all. It's all about the legal process there, that part of the answer. And she says, so, I first talked to the attorneys. I was like, they've had 5 years, the prosecutors, to put like their case together. And I really want to go to trial. Like, we need to go. So we can see again, time is her driving force. There's been 5 years, but she wants to go to trial. We need to go. So time is her driving force. In other words, getting this over and done with. You'll notice, saying as she's really serious charges, she's representing herself, that what is important to her is getting the trial done. She's not talking here about justice. She's not talking here about winning, proving her innocence or anything like that. She's just talking about doing it. You'll also notice that we've got attorneys, prosecutors, case, trial, more legal words. She's in the system. The system is her life now. Then she talks about these other women that are in the jail with her. She says, so I'm in a max pod, with the max woman, and there's about 8 women in my pod facing death penalty. And, I was in facing the death penalty in Idaho. I was the only one in that jail because it was a very small town and a very small jail. So she brings up these other women, and she's got this kind of concept of, I'm doing it for these other women. I'm not just doing it for me. I'm not selfish, Lori Vallow Daybell at all. I'm doing it for these about 8 women that are in jail with me. But look how quickly they disappear when she's talking. She talks about that she's in this max pod with max women. There's 8 women and they're facing the death penalty. And then it all becomes about her again. And, I was in facing the death penalty in Idaho. I was the only one in that jail because it was a very small town and a very small jail. So she does bring in this concept of doing it for other people. She can't hold on to it for a long time. I don't think she is doing it for other people. I don't think these women mean anything at all to Lori. I think this is all about her. So she mentions the other woman, but she can't hold on to that thought, and she can't talk about them very long at all. We just have more legal terms there. She talks about the max pod with the max woman, legal jail terms. So again, she's just in this system. This is just her life, talking about them facing the death penalty there. The next part of the answer, exact same concept. She starts talking about the woman that she says she's doing this for, but then once more, she moves back to herself. The words are, but here, these women have been waiting for their trials for 5, 6, 7, 8 years to go to trial in jail, okay? And then during this experience, I've been in 4 different facilities during this experience, right? Because I've been shuffled all over the country, right? Came from Hawaii to Idaho to Boise, back and forth. And she's going to say back and forward, but she doesn't. But you can see again, she talks about these women waiting for their trials for 5, 6, 7, 8 years to go to trial. And then it's back to her. During this experience, I've been in 4 different facilities, right? I came from Hawaii to Idaho, back and forth. So she keeps trying to bring these women in, but then she drops them like a hot pan and starts talking about herself again. Being in the system is her life. And then she says, I've experienced 5 different facilities now. This is the 5th facility I've been in, and it is the worst. I believe that. Look, compared to everything that's got the okays and the rights, and it doesn't actually make a lot of sense until you break it down and try and work out what it is that she's saying. It's really straightforward that it is the worst. As a pedantic wordsmith, I can't pick any holes in that. So I believe that this current jail that she's in is the worst of all the ones she's been in. Listen, this is the very first question in the interview. And what do I get there? Listen, so far, she doesn't say why she's representing herself. For some reason, she's keeping that hidden. I believe the reason for that is that she just wants to get on with it in time. In fact, potentially, she thinks it's a waste of time, this trial, that she's going to be found guilty. And therefore, why go through all the palaver of all the attorneys and long preparation periods when she can represent herself and just get out of there? She's definitely in the system. All these legal and jail terms just come to her really, really easily. She introduces these other prisoners that she's doing it for, if you like, but no, she goes back to herself very, very quickly. And then all these check-ins, the rights and okays, I think are very convincing, making sure with controlling language that the interviewer believes her. So that's question number 1 down. Let's listen to some more from Lori Vallow Daybell.
What exactly about the conditions bothers you the most? Because, everyone's going to say, what did you expect? You've been convicted of multiple murders. So what were you expecting in this jail?
Well, the people that are in this jail haven't been convicted of anything, that are in the same exact situation as I am. They're innocent. They're innocent right now, and they've been here for 5, 6, 7, 8 years eating slop. Every day, the same thing, every single day, not going out in the sunshine, not having proper medical care, not having proper dental. If something goes wrong with your teeth, you know what the dentist will do from jail? They pull your tooth out. That's it.
So you're fighting for the other inmates here who are waiting for their time in court.
This is what I found out. Arizona, different from other states, and I only know the 2 states because I've only dealt with 2 judicial systems, right, has no intention of giving anybody a speedy trial, even though it's your constitutional federal right, okay? So what I am fighting for these women, I'm fighting for these women and trying to set a precedence here that you can't just leave these women in jail for years, because the conditions at the prison, if you do get convicted, are a million times better than they are at the jail. Jails are not designed. They're not all over the country. Jails are not designed to let you stay long term. The average person in jail goes 3 months. You're in there for 8 years. You've had teeth pulled out all over. You don't have any kind of thing that you need here. So I talked to my attorneys and said, I need to go. And they said, we can't do it because I agreed with them, right? Because I said, from their professional stand, they want to go to court prepared. Right?
Of course.
I'm a hairstylist. I used to charge tons and tons of money in Austin, Texas to do hair. So I'm not going to charge someone $400 to do their hair and let them walk out the door and not let it look good, because that's my reputation. So I talked to my attorneys. I said, I understand where you're coming from. I understand 100%. I don't want to put you in the position where you're saying, I can't do a good job for you. I can't do this for you in this amount of time. But I've been working on my case for 5 years. So I know my case better than an attorney can learn it in 2 years. But here's the thing. When you waive your speedy trial, then they can keep you here as long as they want. There are intelligent, strong, beautiful women in here that have been here for 8 years because of family tragedies. It's the same like my case. A family tragedy, not a crime. A family tragedy. And they're waiting and they're facing the death penalty for a family tragedy. I know these women. I talk to them every day. I try to uplift, strengthen, and help women in this jail. And I think that's the purpose why I'm here.
I've just got visions of everyone that clicked on this episode thinking, let's do an intelligent dive into the words of this woman, and I've ended up getting a lesson in hairstyling and dentistry. Okay, so it's all quite odd from what we heard there. What can we get from the actual words that she uses? She's asked, what exactly about the conditions bothers you the most? Everyone's going to say, what did you expect? You've been convicted of multiple murders, so what were you expecting in this jail? Lori starts her answer with, well, and that's always a flag for not necessarily a lie is coming, but I'm not going to answer the question you asked. I'm going to talk about something that I want to talk about and give more of an explanation than just an answer to the question. An answer to the question would be maybe what she was expecting or what about the conditions bothers her the most. But instead, we get this big speech that she prepares us for by starting the answer with that word, well. And she says, well, the people that are in this jail haven't been convicted of anything. That are in the exact same situation as I am. They're innocent. They're innocent right now. And they've been here for 5, 6, 7, 8 years eating slop. So we have some slop in there, which is maybe something that is bad about the conditions. But you'll notice that she does not include herself in the innocent people. She includes herself outside of that, or she disincludes herself, if you like. She doesn't say, we're innocent right now. She says, they're innocent right now. So while she's trying to get herself together with these women, she talks about them and as distant from her. She's not part of this group. It's they're innocent right now. Interesting. I think she's using legal concepts, which is they're innocent right now, but when they go to court, they could well be guilty, I think is what brought that form of words along. But it's interesting that she does not think of herself and does not join herself to the group of innocent. She says every day, the same thing, every single day, not going out in the sunshine, not having proper medical care. Now, notice that she doesn't say she experiences this. She doesn't say anyone actually experiences this. There's no pronouns in there at all to say who suffers these things. It's just this strangely bland, generic phrase, every day, the same thing, every day, not going out in the sunshine, not having proper medical care, and then not having proper dental. If something goes wrong with your teeth, you know what the dentist will do from jail? They'll pull your tooth out. That's it. That is the most that she has to say. She's talked about slop. She's talked about every day the same thing. And then there's this really long phrase about the dental care, not having proper dental. If something goes wrong with your teeth, you know what the dentist will do from jail? They'll pull your tooth out. That's it. Again, she doesn't say that has happened to her. She just talks about it. But interesting that this is the thing that she has expanded most on in terms of what is wrong in the prison, in the jail. It's the dental care there. And like I say, is any of this really happening? Because she doesn't say it's happened to someone. It's just a concept, if you like, that she's raising. So the interviewer says to her, you're fighting for the other inmates here who are waiting for their time in court. Yes, no question. She can say, yes, I am fighting for these inmates. She can say, no, I'm not fighting for these inmates. I'm doing it for myself or something like that. She doesn't start her answer or have yes or no anywhere near the beginning of her answer. So she's gone again into one of these things that's maybe pre-prepared, or maybe it's just in her mind. And she does seem to have a very hyperactive mind that she wants to get out. So she's going to take a question and make her answer fit that question. She goes, this is what I found out. Arizona, different from other states, and I only know the two states because I've only dealt with two judicial systems, right? And this feels very commanding, and do listen to me. I'm an authority on all of this. I think a controlling personality is coming out there. So anyway, Arizona has no intention of giving anybody a speedy trial, even though it's your constitutional federal right, okay? So what I am fighting for these women, I'm fighting for these women to trying to set a precedence here. So she does say, I'm fighting for these women. Going to be a concept that's going to become important as we go through the analysis. I am fighting for these women. So eventually, after talking about Arizona and speedy trials and so on, she does come back to something that she was asked in the question, which is, what are you fighting for? Still not quite sure what it is. I'm fighting for these women and trying to set a precedence here that you can't just leave these women in jail for dear years, because conditions at the prison, if you do get convicted, are a million times better than they are at the jail. So we've been told that these women are innocent, or it's been hinted that they are innocent, but you'll see what she's fighting for here is just better conditions, a move to the prison, because there's no mention of justice for these women. There's no mention of setting innocent people free. And she also implies that they are all going to be found guilty, because the best thing that she can fight for is they will get out of the jail into the prison where the conditions are a million times better. So even she doesn't think that anyone in this whole process is innocent or is going to be found innocent at trial. I think that includes her. I think, again, this is just all about time. She just wants to move from this jail that she does not like towards a prison where she's told that conditions are a million times better. She tells us jails are not designed, they're not all over the country, jails are not designed to let you stay long term. She says the average person in jail goes 3 months. You're in for there for 8 years. You've had teeth pulled out all over. So once again, she's gone to having teeth pulled out. I think there's a reason why she mentions having teeth pulled out, which we'll come to again later on there. But listen, the question was about fighting for the other woman. And she says, you don't have any of that kind of thing you need here. So I talked to my attorneys and I said, I need to go. And they said, we can't do it because I agreed with them, right? So once again, she's asked about these other women and she sort of mentions them. She gives them some lip service, but then whoosh, it all comes back to Lori Vallow Daybell, the most important person in her world by far. She wants to give us this impression she's doing it for other people, that she's a very nice person and she's very worthy in doing things for other people. This is not just about me, but it's for everyone, these 8 women that are there. But it's all about her, because every time she starts talking about those other women, it just comes back to her. So she starts getting a little bit stuttery here. The attorneys said, we can't do it because that tails off, and she says, I agreed with them, right? That stutter on the I suggests there's some nervousness there. When we stutter on I, we're joining ourselves to whatever comes next, but I, and then whatever comes next. The thought process is, am I ready to join myself to this, especially if it's a lie? So I'm not so sure that she did agree with them, because she feels the need to tell us that she agreed with them. Why would she feel the need to say she agreed with them? Why was what the attorneys just say not taken as fact? Because they said, I said, from their professional stand, they want to go to court prepared, right? Now you can see how this is starting to fall apart here. It's getting very stuttery. I agreed with them because they said, I said, from their professional stand, they want to go to court prepared, right? And then she says, I'm a hairstylist. I used to charge tons and tons of money in Austin, Texas to do hair. You can see some ego coming through there, which is, look, I'm not just a jailbird. I'm not just a convict. I'm not just someone who's in here for multiple murder convictions. I'm a hairstylist. I used to charge tons and tons of money in Austin, Texas to do hair. Now, do you notice the tenses there? I'm a hairstylist is in the present tense. I am currently a hairstylist is what she's saying there. I used to charge tons and tons of money in Austin means I did, but I no longer charge tons and tons of money in Austin. Obviously very true because she is in jail, but I think she still sees herself as a hairstylist. Potentially that is her identity. She's a hairstylist. If you can see the video, you can see that her hair has been done to within an inch of its life. Very good hairdo for someone that is in jail. Potentially she also does hair for women in prison, which is why she can say, I am a hairstylist, but she doesn't charge anymore. I used to charge tons and tons of money in Austin, Texas to do hair, but a real hint of ego showing through there. I may be in jail now, but once upon a time, I was a great hairstylist who charged tons and tons of money. She carries on from her hairstyling anecdotes. So I'm not going to charge someone $400 to do their hair and let them walk out the door, not let it look good, because that's my reputation. She's trying to talk about how she identified with the attorneys here, and she understands that the attorneys don't want to go to a quick trial because they won't be prepared for it and their reputation is on the line. And so she's drawing this analogy with what she used to do as a hairstylist, but she's in the present tense here, saying that if someone walked out the salon with not good hair, her reputation would be ruined. Lori, I hate to break it to you, your reputation is about a lot more now than your hairstyling prowess. So I talked to my attorneys. I said, I understand where you're coming from. I understand 100%. We've got the stutter coming here again on the word I, so I'm not sure she did understand 100%. It's not true. She's stuttering because she doesn't want to join herself to a lie, because that's what no one, or in general, people don't like to join themselves to a lie. I understand 100%. I don't want to put you in the position where you're saying, I can't do a good job for you. Another stutter on the I. I can't do this for you in this amount of time, but I've been working on my case for 5 years. Do you think it's been 5 years, by the way? She has mentioned that once or twice. So I know my case better than an attorney can learn it in 2 years. But here's the thing. When you waive your speedy trial, then they can keep you here as long as they want. And in here, we have the concept of time coming back again. An attorney can learn it in 2 years. When you waive your speedy trial, so speedy is again about time, they can keep you here as long as you want. So once more, she's on this concept of time and trying to hurry up time with this speedy trial. She goes back to the women. They are intelligent, strong, beautiful women in here that have been here for 8 years because of family tragedies. It's the same like my case. A family tragedy, not a crime. Now, she talks about her case, and man, a lot of people have died that have been surrounding Lori Vallow Daybell, and she's been convicted of the murder of quite a few of them. And she's calling it not a crime, it's a family tragedy, which I think is a personal definition of comfort, that she is going to think of these not as her killing people or not as her being involved in the death of these people. It is a family tragedy. I think that gives her comfort to say it out loud like that. It may give her comfort inside her head to refer to them as family tragedies. And they are family tragedies. That is a real, genuine, valid way of describing what has happened. It is a tragedy that has befallen a family. However, that is softening it slightly in terms of her involvement in what has happened. But I think this is just how she likes to caption it, how she likes to call it, how she likes to put a label on it. It's a personal definition that brings her comfort, calling them a family tragedy, not a crime. She says a family tragedy, and they're waiting. Again, a time reference. And they're facing the death penalty for a family tragedy. I know these women. I talk to them every day. I try to uplift, strengthen, and help women in this jail. And I think that's the purpose why I'm here. What is the purpose? I wasn't quite sure. To uplift and strengthen them, maybe. But look, she doesn't really believe that because she uses some vague language to talk about it. It's, I try to uplift, strengthen, and help women in this jail. So it's not I do, it's just I try to do this. And I think that's the purpose why I'm here. So there's two vagueness words in there, try to uplift them, and I think that's the purpose why I'm here. That's been quite a lot. So far in this answer, look, her focus is on getting moved. And getting moved quickly, I think, because we've seen all those concepts of time. She wants to go to prison where conditions are a million times better than where she is now. Lots about image. the teeth being missing, the hairstylist, which is obviously all about how you look, but also how she comes across. She wants to talk to us about her business acumen, that she's not just this jailbird or this person known for family tragedies in inverted commas, but hey, she used to have business acumen. She used to run a great business that she had a great reputation for, as well as the hairstyling, as well as having teeth removed. Image seems to be very, very important to us. And then she wants to talk to us about helping others and show us how nice she is. She's helping these women. She's reasonable with attorneys. Not sure I buy a hell of a lot of that. From Lori Vallow Daybell. Now, she spoke about personal tragedies. This is very interesting. What happens when the interviewer pushes her on these family tragedies?
Can you define family tragedy for me?
Yeah.
Obviously, you were convicted of killing your kids. Where does that
Wrongly
disconnect?
convicted.
You believe wrongly convicted.
Absolutely, 100%.
So then, how do you address that? You were convicted of it. They're not here. So what happened? Okay.
Can we cut for just a second?
Well, that was interesting. Can you define family tragedy for me? She says, yeah. So there's a yes or no question that she says yeah to. The interviewer says, obviously you were convicted of killing your kids. Where does that disconnect? And then Lori interrupts and says, wrongly convicted. So she doesn't want to let it go past that she was convicted, which is factual, but she wants to say wrongly convicted. And the interviewer says, you believe wrongly convicted. I think she says it as a question, not a statement. And Lori Vallow Daybell says, absolutely 100%. Now, that's just an interesting answer for me. Number one, it's got the word absolutely in there. It's a yes, no question. You believe wrongly convicted? Yes, I do. No, I don't. But she doesn't say yes or no. It's absolutely. So it's not just yes, it's absolutely, which she's using like a superless to persuade us that she really does believe she was wrongly convicted. She feels like yes would not be persuasive enough, would not show enough commitment and passion for how wrongly convicted she is. So she turns it up a notch. She turns it up to 11. Instead of just saying yes, she says absolutely 100%. You'll notice there's something missing from the answer, I hope. You believe wrongly convicted? Absolutely 100%. Lori Vallow Daybell is not in that at all. She doesn't use any personal pronouns. Yes, I was wrongly convicted, or yes, I believe I was wrongly convicted. She takes herself out of that answer altogether and just says absolutely 100%. Then it's all very interesting because the interviewer says, so then how do you address that? You were convicted of it. They're not here, so what happened? And for a woman representing herself, then what happens next is quite strange because an attorney butts in and says, can we cut this now? So for some reason, she doesn't want to talk about her prior convictions. And she looks quite happy with that decision as well. Coming up, Lori Vallow Daybell's mask starts to slip a little bit more. Do you ever feel that you're not being told the full story? Well, you're right. It happens all the time. Lori's doing it to us now. It can happen just in our day-to-day lives. I'm here to give you the key to just seeing that little bit deeper because this is all about hearing the world with new ears. I'm on a mission to share this with as many people as possible. So if you want to unlock that secret, subscribe to this channel, follow, join in the movement if you can. Also delve into the archives. There is a treasure trove of cases waiting to be explored where I dig into the words that people use and give you tips to use in your day-to-day life for understanding whether you're hearing the truth or deception and the motivations when people speak. And if you know someone who needs this skill, someone who deserves to hear the truth, then hit the like button, share this and recommend it and pass it on because every single click, every single share, it fuels the fire. It allows me to dig deeper, analyze further, and bring this life-changing skill to even more people. I hear from people, grateful audience members who've navigated tricky personal life situations using the listening skills and the analytical skills that they've learned on this channel. Your like, your share, your recommendation could help someone like that. It is a great gift to give. Whichever button you press, thank you so much for pressing it. Let's go back into the jail and speak to Lori Vallow Daybell.
What's your biggest complaint? What do you want to see happen? And is that the tone that you want to take throughout this trial?
I don't think that I'm trying to set a tone. That's not my intention, is to set a tone. It's and I'm not a fighter, okay? So my whole life, I've been a peacemaker. I'm a person that loves everybody, a person that gets along with everybody. I don't like to fight. So this is a challenge for me to even fight for myself, to fight for these women, to kind of stand up for the first time in my life, because I'm kind of been, I'm a people pleaser by nature. And it's been really difficult for me, but there's so many wrongs in the system. There's certain things that your attorneys won't say for you, because here's the problem. Your attorneys, they're professionals, right? So they're colleagues with the prosecutors, they're colleagues with the judges. And I get that, because I've worked in a professional environment, so I get that. You have to be, they argue their points, and then they go out to lunch. Like, I get that, right? I'm not doing that. I'm fighting for my life here, really.
There's this notion from people in the public that feel you're representing yourself because you have nothing to lose, that this is a challenge, kind of a show, a game for you. Do you agree with that?
I never hear any of this stuff because I'm in a room 23 hours a day, and we don't have any access to any kind of news. So, or any kind of anything, really. So I didn't know that people were saying that, but I wouldn't agree with that, obviously.
So, what's your biggest complaint? She's asked. What do you want to see happen? And what is the tone that you want to take through this trial? And she starts off by talking about the things that are not happening. I don't think I'm trying to set a tone. So she's talking about something that isn't happening. I'm not trying to set a tone. That's not my intention, is to set a tone. So once again, there's no tone being set, okay? And I'm not a fighter. So what is happening here? She's started off by reacting to the question and telling us why the question's a bad one. I'm not trying to set a tone. It's not my intention to set a tone. And also, I'm not a fighter. When someone tells us what they're not, that is where their focus is, as Lori is going to prove for us as we go through this answer. She says, my whole life I've been a peacemaker. I'm a person that loves everybody, a person that gets along with everybody. I don't like to fight. Now, she has just said there, I'm not a fighter, and she wants to combat that by saying something else that shows that she's not a fighter. Look at how she uses extreme words that are 100% solid, if you like. So my whole life I've been a peacemaker. I'm a person that loves everybody, a person that gets along with everybody. So what she's saying there, it just can't be true unless she's bloody superwoman. My whole life I've been a peacemaker. Well, that's not true for anyone. We all are not these perfect people. So this is a lie, and this is her being very persuasive and manipulative as well. I'm a person that loves everybody. No one loves everybody. We might say we do, but we don't love everybody. She's using these extreme 100% words, totality words, to convince us and persuade us of something. So I don't believe this at all. Why does she feel the need not to be honest and talk about it in a more realistic way? Why does she feel the need to go and use these full, total words? My whole life, I'm a person that loves everybody, a person that gets along with everybody. Again, no one gets along with everybody. We've seen what happens if you don't get along with her, if you don't fit into her worldview. But she wants to tell us that she gets along with everybody. And then she says, I don't like to fight. Now, she's told us I'm not a fighter, but then she says, I don't like to fight. Wow, what's going on there? She doesn't like to fight. That's not saying she doesn't fight at all. It's just, I don't like to fight. So she doesn't have the real words to sort of show us what a peace-loving, nice person she is, what a fighter she isn't. This bit all doesn't fall together well. She continues, so this is a challenge for me to even fight for myself, to fight for these women. So 2 fights there. Again, I think fight is something that is high in her head. She is fighting for something. Despite the fact she's told us she's not a fighter, that's where her focus is, on a fight. And then she gets really woolly. She says, to fight for these women, to kind of stand up for them for the first time in my life, because I'm kind of been, I'm a people pleaser by nature, and it's been really difficult for me, but there's so many wrongs in the system. So we've got that wishy-washy kind of stand up for the first time in my life, because I've kind of been, a people pleaser by nature. You can just, if you're listening to it, you can see she's lost her flow here compared to how vividly she talked about how rubbish life in jail was, how it's a million times better in prison. Now she's lost her flow as she's talking about this. It's really not all coming together very nicely for her. She goes on, there's certain things that your attorneys won't say for you because here's the problem. Your attorneys, they're professionals, right? So they're colleagues with the prosecutors, they're colleagues with the judges. And I get that because I've worked in a professional environment. So I get that, you have to be, they argue their points and then they go out to lunch. So once more, she's trying to tell us how she gets these attorneys. She says, I get that. They're colleagues with the judges. I get that. And then she says she doesn't really care for that whatsoever because they're going to let her down if that's who they are. But she does again like to drop in this resume statement to tell us how accomplished she is by saying, I've worked in a professional environment there. So again, this is about appearances to her, how she looks, how she comes across. She's not just someone who's in jail for a long, long, long time for killing her children, but also she's a professional. She says, I get that, right? I'm not doing that. I'm fighting for my life here, really. Did you notice that there? The women have gone again. She brings them in and talks about them for a little bit and then whooshing, they are gone again. And here she's only talking about herself. What's the fight that she's doing? It's not the fight for these other women. It's not the fight to prove they're innocent or anything like that. It's for herself. I'm fighting for my life here. Really. Remember that time when she said absolutely 100% when asked if she was convinced if she was wrongly convicted? And I said there are no personal pronouns in there. She is not in that statement whatsoever. Look how often she is in this statement. I'm fighting for my life here, really. So I believe she is doing this. She shows lots more commitment to the fight rather than to the wrongful conviction. She is then asked, there's this notion from people in the public that feel you're representing yourself because you have nothing to lose, that this is a challenge, kind of a show, a game for you. Do you agree with that? And she doesn't say yes or no. It's another yes or no question where she decides that she's going to go and give us something different. She says, I never hear any of this stuff because I'm in a room 23 hours a day and we don't have access to any kind of news. So, or any kind of anything really. So I didn't know that people were saying that, but I wouldn't agree with that, obviously. So that's a long time to answer because if you look right back to what the question was, some people feel you have nothing to lose. This is a challenge, a kind of show, a game for you. Do you agree with that? And at the very end there, after saying how she's not aware of any of these things, how she's in a room 23 hours a day, she has mentioned that before, by the way, she doesn't have access to any kind of news. She was not aware these things were being said. And then she says, I wouldn't agree with that, obviously. Obviously, a convincing word. It's a convincer. So it's obviously, don't question this. I wouldn't agree with that. Obviously. She says, I never hear any of this stuff. The word never is in there. Always a red flag for a bit of deception. What does never mean? It means not ever. Well, she's just heard some of the stuff there. And as we'll find out, I never hear any of this stuff is a lie. And what I picked up on that, well, I wouldn't have said this is definitely a lie, but the word never, it's one of those total words. It's like complete solid word. So never hear any of this stuff. I thought, yeah, that's a bit of a lie. And it is, as we will see. So in this section here, huge focus on fighting. Despite the fact she says she's not a fighter, she talks about what it is that she's fighting for. She is fighting for something and she's dead honest about it. She says, I'm fighting for my life. She's lost flow. This is a lot more clunky. You thought this stuff earlier was clunky. This is a lot more clunky than that. And the other women again have gone. This is all about her. Let's hear some more from Lori Vallow Daybell.
Going over your case and all of it for years, I mean, it seemed like you had the life that so many wanted in Arizona. You had it all.
I loved our life here. Yeah.
Why are we here? Why are we at the place we're at now? You had that life. Why throw it away?
It's tragedy. Families have tragedies. Things happen, and there was a domino effect of tragedies in my life, and that's really sad.
What do you describe that domino effect of what?
It's probably something that we should save for next time.
Do you consider you and Chad still together?
Sure, of course.
And how is that going to work with you? He's on death row and you are in prison for life. How do you continue that relationship, that marriage?
In the best way that you can, the only way that you can.
We see a very different tone here. I'll talk you through it as we see it. So the interviewer says, going over your case and all of it for years, I mean, it seemed like you had the life that so many wanted in Arizona. You had it all. She says, I loved our life here. Loved, past tense, but entirely believable. Once upon a time, she did love the life that she had there in Arizona. And then it's put to her, why are we here? Like, why are we at this place where we're at now? You had that life. Why throw it all away? And her response is, it's a tragedy. Families have tragedies. Things happen. And there was a domino effect of tragedies in my life. And that's really sad. Let's unpick all of that. Notice how distant she is with the whole thing. It's a tragedy, not I suffered a tragedy or my family suffered a tragedy. It's just that very distant, it's a tragedy. Families have tragedies. She's talking in general. She's not talking about her own family specifically there. She's talking about all families. Families have tragedies. Again, going to this family tragedy concept, which I think gives her comfort to talk about that she didn't kill her children. It was a tragedy that happened. Makes her, she can say that because it's very easy. Then things happen is the next thing she said. So it's a tragedy. Families have tragedies. Things happen. Things happen. Your children are dead. Things happen. That's downplaying it severely. She says there was a domino effect of tragedies. What does that even mean? She doesn't expand on any of this in my life, and that's really sad. She doesn't say who it's sad for. Again, she is missing any pronouns out of this at all to show us who feels this or who is affected by this. It's just, and that's really sad. She's then asked, what do you describe that domino effect of what? And there's a long pause from Lori, and then she says, it's probably something we should save for next time. So what we are seeing there is avoiding talking about that. She wants to shut this down, and it's not something we should save for something we will talk about next time. It's probably something we should save for next time. I don't know whether she wants to avoid talking about the specifics of the family tragedy and getting more out there. You can see how distant she has put the whole thing and how she's downplayed what happened. I think it's very sensitive to her. Obviously, it would be. Or has she nothing to say on this? Did she think she was giving an interview about the trial that's coming up and about representing herself? Don't know. But she dodges that one and says, I ain't going to talk about this. She wants to avoid talking about it for some reason. She's asked, do you consider you and Chad still together? And she says, sure, of course. Again, nothing personal in there whatsoever. Of course is a convincer. So what a stupid question. Of course I consider us still together is what is in there. It's the language of control that she's giving out there. She doesn't do it a lot, but it does come out. And it's very subtle when she does it, but I do believe a controlling personality, someone who's used to manipulating people and using words to convince others in her life of things by using words like obviously and of course. The interviewer asks her, and how is that going to work with you? He's on death row and you're in prison for life. How do you continue that relationship, that marriage? Lori's answer is, in the best way that you can and the only way that you can. So we've nothing there of any specifics. It's a very, very general, bland answer. And she's not talking about herself again. She's dropped out herself from this again. It's just the best way that you can and the only way that you can. You might have noticed there as she's talking about this, and these are very personal questions, the answers are much shorter. I loved our life here is one of those answers. It's a tragedy. Families have tragedy. Things happen. The sentences are much shorter. There's a lot less run on when she's talking and pushed to talk about her life, her relationships, her children. Then she shuts down and she's giving very, very short, nondescript answers. And even says, I'm going to avoid talking about this at some point. So she really has changed her flow there. Let's get some more from Lori.
What do you think people have wrong about you?
Pretty much everything.
Like what?
Specifically, I don't really know what people think, because I don't have access to the kind of media that you guys are watching all these things. I never get to watch anything. Right. So I hear things from different people. I get text messages from people saying, oh, so-and-so said such and such. And I'm like, okay, I don't have access to what the people know. So I kind of can't clear it up because kind of don't know what it all is.
If you could clear something up right now, what would it be?
That I love everybody. That I'm here for a purpose. I think, God put me here in this jail, the worst jail in the country, they say, and I really can't argue it. But when I got here, the girls are like, did you know that you got brought to the worst jail in the country? And I was like, I can't argue that it's not. But he brought me here to help uplift and strengthen these women. And that's what I try to do every day. I'm a certified group fitness instructor, and I worked here at Fitness Works and taught aerobics. And so I teach a workout to the girls every day. We laugh together, we cry together, we pray together. We're all in our separate cells. We're in there 23 hours a day. So we just talk to each other through the cell doors, right? Like each of us get out an hour a day and we can talk to each other through the door. We have to take our shower and whatever. But this jail, some days you'll be in your cell for 3 days. They go on lockdown and you don't get out for 72 hours. You're just in your room. So I'm here to help strengthen these other women. Sometimes God needs somebody to go into the trenches. And I think he put me here for that purpose.
Lots to go through there. The first question in that section was, what do you think people have wrong about you? And she says, pretty much everything. Now, the pretty much says not everything, that some people have things right about her. But she's asked, what do you think people have wrong about you? She says, pretty much everything. So even if we accept that a lot or some, which pretty much indicates, how does that fit into what she said earlier, which was, I never hear any of this stuff because I'm in a room 23 hours a day, don't have any access to any kind of news, anything really. I don't know what people were saying that, but I wouldn't agree with that. And yet, what do people have wrong about you? Pretty much everything. The two things do not go together. So she's pushed on it, and the interviewer says, like what? And Lori says specifically, which she says is a question, she's buying some thinking time here, because Lori does not like saying bad things about herself at all. We have seen it in the softening of what she's convicted of, softening of what she's accused of. She does not like saying bad things about herself at all. And this is forcing her to say, not owning the bad things, it's saying what people are accusing her of, but she wants to think of a way of getting out from under this. And so she starts using some really vague, minimizing words. She says specifically that buys her the thinking time. And she stutters on, I don't know. I don't really know what people think, because I don't have access to the kind of media that you guys are watching and all these things. I never get to watch anything. So I don't really know. Well, if you don't really know, you have some idea. You do have some things that are going on. It's just really know. So she's weakening it there with that really. I don't have access to the kind of media that you guys have, saying she does have access to some kind of media. And then she says, I never get to watch anything. That word never is in there again. Don't believe that. I think she does watch things. She says, so I don't. I hear things from different people. I get text messages from people saying... So all of a sudden now she does know what people think, because she's telling us that she does get messages from different people, text messages from people. So she does know what people are saying. So she just does not want to admit, I think, out loud that some people do not like her. Some people have a very bad point of view of her. And look, she doesn't verbalize what people are saying. She just puts it into this generic, oh, so-and-so said such and such. She doesn't want to say, people say I'm a callous killer, I'm the worst mum that ever existed, or anything like that. She doesn't want to say any of that out loud. She's distancing herself from all of that. It's just so-and-so said such and such. Lori continues, and I'm like, okay, I don't have access to what the people know, so I can clear it up, because I kind of don't know what it all is. Just kind of don't know, so you do know. I don't have access to what people know as well as interesting. What she's saying there, in her words, in her own words, let's believe her, is these people know things about her. She just doesn't know What they know is what she's saying. But she does say that people know these things. And you'll notice there's no rebuttal. So she doesn't come back and say anything that people have got wrong. She does say she's aware of what people are saying, but she doesn't say this is wrong. People don't know me. The actual real me is this. No rebuttal of any of those things that people are saying at all. She's asked, if you could clear something up right now, what would it be? She says that I love everybody. So there we go. We've got this total word again, this 100% word. I love everybody. No one loves everybody, so that's a lie. That I'm here for a purpose. I think, God put me here in this jail, the worst jail in the country, they say, and I really can't argue it. But when I got here, the girls were like, did you know you were brought to the worst jail in the country? So she's back on that jail that she really does have a bee in her bonnet about. Like, I spotted it near the very beginning when she just spoke about this being the worst jail in the country. I said, I believe she thinks that. And she's talking about it again. She's asked about if you could clear something up, what would it be? And she says, I love everybody. And then she goes on and talks about how bad the jail is. It's a huge priority in her head for her to get out, in her words. She carries on. And I was like, I can't argue that it's not, but he brought me here to help uplift and strengthen these women. And that's what I try to do every day. Just try to do it. She doesn't say she always succeeds. I taught I'm a certified group fitness instructor, and I worked here at Fitness Works and taught aerobics. So once more, we've got the ego showing through. She doesn't just teach aerobics. She doesn't keep people fit. It's more about her telling us that she's certified. Hey, she was a hairdresser with a great reputation. She charged lots of money. She was really much in demand. I am a certified group fitness instructor. Certified is the word that comes through there for me. Again, a little bit of ego showing through. And then I think she catches herself in a big lie. She says, and so I teach workout to the girls every day. We laugh together. We cry together. We pray together. And then she says, we're all in our separate cells, because she has spent so long trying to tell us how bad this jail was, with no sunlight, with the teeth being pulled out, no medical care, 23 hours in your cell, no access to news or anything like that whatsoever. And I think the truth has slipped out here. I teach workout to the girls every day. We laugh together. We cry together. We pray together. Sounds great time, doesn't it? There's workouts every day, lots of laughing, lots of crying, lots of empathy. What a great group, all praying together as well. That's really nice. We're all in our separate cells. We're here 23 hours a day. So we just talk to each other through the cell doors, right? Like each of us gets out an hour a day and we can talk to each other through the door. Is that what happened? Or are you painting the worst possible scenario there? Did you realize that you're let out, that actually you're all right in there? It's not as bad as you're painting it. I'm not saying it's, like a day in the Garden of Eden. What I am saying is that laughing together, crying together, praying together sounds like quite a nice communal experience she can have at times there. And she realizes that as well. And she's like, oh, by the way, we're all in our separate cells. We have to take our shower and whatever, but in this jail, some days you'll be in your cell for 3 days. Now, that's, I think, is a misspeak, because some days you can't be in your cell for 3 days. It just doesn't work logically. They go on lockdown and you don't get out for 72 hours. Again, this is all about you. They go on lockdown and you don't get out for 72 hours. Not about her. You're just in your room. So I think she is painting this a lot worse than it is. She doesn't have the genuine, authentic experience to put herself in there with some personal pronouns and not saying, I'm just in my room for 23 hours a day. So I'm here to help strengthen these other women. Sometimes God needs somebody to go into the trenches, and I think he put me here for that purpose. I think he put me here for that purpose. She didn't really say what the purpose is. It's just being in this trenches and teaching aerobics. Maybe that's God's will. I don't know. That's what I have from that interview. Always useful to look at what is missing. What do I think is missing when I go back there? What would I have expected to hear? And what is missing for me is anything about proving her innocence, anything about success at the trial, what she thinks it is that she can achieve with the trial. There's nothing in there at all with an upcoming trial, conspiracy to murder her ex-husband. She's representing herself, and she does not once try to claim her innocence, hope that she will be able to prove her innocence to the jury or anything like that. I found that really, really, really glaringly missing in what she spoke about in that interview. So that is all I have. The big question is, what is going on with Lori Vallow Daybell? Well, I think she sees a futility here. That question that was put to her, that people say she's just playing a game, she's nothing to lose by defending herself, she's in for life anyway, whether it goes well or goes badly, she might as well get it over with. I think there is a huge sense of futility for her in her words. She doesn't talk about innocence, she doesn't talk about appeals, she doesn't talk about being found not guilty or of clearing her name or anything like that at all. So I think there's a huge sense of futility there. I don't think she has any hope of winning this at all in her head. Not that I don't think she has any hope of winning it with the jury. I don't think she thinks that she has any hope. Image, very important to Lori. She tells us so much about her past glories, the status, the certified instructor, I was a professional once and so on, but it's really flimsy. The status is wafer thin, but I think that's what she kind of like leans on like a crutch because, you know, she spoke about her reputation earlier, and her reputation she thought was about her hairstyling. Lori, not a chance. And also, she really doesn't like the jail she's in, and her priority, we saw the timing and the fact she wants to go speedy, and the fact this has been in the pipelines for a long time being really important to her. She doesn't like the jail she's in. She wants to move from it fast. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments if you can, or get in touch on social media. NeverAtruerWord.com is the website. There you will find a whole load more podcasts and videos so you can take a deep dive into the words that people choose to use and understand whether they're telling you the truth, whether they're deceiving you, and what the motivations are, what's going on in their mind, very much like we did with Lori there. If you want even more, you can become a member of the YouTube channel or a subscriber on Spotify, and you will get early access to episodes like this and also bonus exclusive episodes too. That's becoming a channel member on YouTube or a subscriber on Spotify. You can check out all the details of absolutely everything at neveratruerword.com. And we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.